Evening all, welcome to Kicking Dust. So today what we're going to do is we're going to cover dropships, and we're going to have a chat around some interesting news that's certainly coming through from the forums. So let's get into it. I mean, really, I'm loving my kind of dropships at the moment, but I wouldn't say I'm very good at them, so don't expect me to do terribly well here. And it's funny, the last probably 3 or 4 days in a row we've had some pretty tough matches. I think, I don't know really why, I wouldn't say people were spamming tanks or prototype or anything at us. I think we've just had a lot of losses. I think we generally try and run things like skirmish at the moment. I think if we played more domination, we'd probably win more. But certainly with factional warfare, and I think is it skirmish? Yeah, skirmish. It's always a bit more tricky to get your kills. And I think certainly when you look at the way a lot of people are playing lately, that's worthy of comment, hence the video. And I think certainly a lot of what I'm finding is that FW and skirmish are being run in a very different way to things like assault. God, what am I talking about? Ambush and domination. And let's talk about that, because the reality is, and I've said this before in other videos, is that when you play multi-point skirmish and FW, you find that most of the enemy team aren't looking to fight. They're looking to hack and to avoid the fight. And that's an interesting thing to me. I wouldn't say it's a bad thing. I'm not criticizing it at all. It's a good idea. But I think certainly for our kind of matches, it's been a bit frustrating. Domination is there to stop this kind of jiggery-pokery. So I think certainly you shouldn't be you shouldn't be kind of browbeating this as a tactic, because certainly a lot of FW is not necessarily about having a good fight. It's about getting the win, so you get the loyalty points, and I totally respect that because it makes sense. Certainly a lot of what the game is about at the moment is not necessarily sort of like having a necessarily good fight. It's about stomping and winning and such, and I think that's kind of a shame in a way. It'd be nice to see the balance. Let me give you an example here, because we've had this happen in a game yesterday, and I won't mention the corp. See, not trolling anymore, but a very, very kind of a decent corp. Saw they brought in 2 Madrugas, and Delboy and I were in our gun lodges. And they obviously didn't see us, because we just leapt around the corner and we mugged them, we stole their wallet, and we left them lying in a pool of piss and blood. And we flowed all the way back to the red line. And we were like, yep, good, hope, yeah, that was a good fight. And they then proceeded to bring in 6 tanks, all railgun seekers and somas, to deal with us. And we were kind of bemused by this. So we charged them. We killed another 3. I lost my tank. Delboy, I think, managed to keep his. And we were back to square one. And then they proceeded to bring in even more tanks. And it was kind of like, it was just 2 sides butting heads until one gave up. And what bothered me about it, what was a shame, rather, was the fact that it was all railguns. It was all from the red line. They made us come to them. They didn't look to have a fight, and it was such a shame, because we were kind of saying in gang, imagine if they brought in 6 Madrugas, all with blaster and missile turrets, because we don't use railguns. Our team doesn't use them. Imagine how much fun that could have been to skirmish in the middle of the map like that. A mass tank battle where you fight and you're kind of trying to outmaneuver, you're trying to get the shot on the rear. Oh, how fun that would have been. But sadly, no. It did seem to me that sometimes, it does feel that the win is all that matters. It's not, and I don't get this. I know in EVE we talk about good fights. It's become a bit of a joke, to be honest with you. But good fights was always something that, people did because you'd want to go out. It doesn't necessarily matter if you win or lose, but you have a good fight. Okay, now, if you want to see what this is, check out Eddie Rio's channel for his PvE Rome antics stuff. Because for him, it's not about actually winning the fight. It's about having a good fight. And I think this really does extend into Dust. And I think certainly lately we've been very, disappointed, if you like, with the way that you can kind of see a good fight forming. So in this case, we had 3 tanks on our side. They had 6. We were all in like Madrugas and gun lodges, and they were in obviously seekers and somas. And I think the potential was it could have been an epic fight. but they didn't. They just sat on the red line, plinked away at us, killed me. I then thought, fuck this, I bought in my dropship, and it just ruined the whole thing. It was a very sad affair. I may do a video of it, but I don't really want to sort of browbeat the corp that did it, because it was just a shame that they, that was the way that they wanted it to go. And I think that's kind of the way a lot of the game's going at the moment. I'm quite proud to say I've never redline railgun tanked at all, except once, I think, just to try it out. But I honestly thought it was the most boring thing in the world. So I can't really see why people do it. Well, I can obviously see why people do it, because it's easy, it's simple, it's cheap, and it's low risk. But it's a bit of a shame, really, because I think that the whole tank issue, in inverted commas, is going to suffer, is going to be nerfed, is going to be changed, is going to be, ruined by redline railgun tanks. Do you see what I mean? Like, I don't have a problem with 6 tanks in the match fighting each other, as long as the only way they can do it is in the open, in the map, not in the red line, not forcing one team to come to the red line or the other. Which is a shame, because I think my biggest fear is going to be that they're going, CCP will change the game so that tanks are just no longer even effective as an option. So all of a sudden you're back to your infantry game, and then you've got your protostomp et al. And I think that's a shame. It would be nice to see tanks continue to be used in the numbers that they are being used currently, but just remove that awful ability to to hide, to sit in the red line and plink away at the whole map. Remove that, and I think you've got a very interesting game right on your hands, because the best matches we've had have been ones we've lost. Literally, we have just lost from the outset. But we've killed sort of 5. I mean, in one match, I killed 7 tanks just on my own, and that was with a gang of 4 tankers, and it was just a joy. And at the end of it, everybody GG'd each other. Even our enemies, who were obviously, they were bringing it. We lost a huge amount of stuff as well, and it was glorious. So I think I really do hope that part of the game never changes, because it is such an exciting part of the game. But that it needs some work. I think it needs to influence the infantry game a lot less. I think blasters need to maybe hit slightly for less on infantry. I know I'm unpopular saying that, but I generally don't want to fight infantry with my tank. I want to fight tanks with my tank. Anyway, that's just my opinion, and for what it's worth. So as you can see, doing a bit of drop shipping, moving the Judge around, playing a few games with Judge, and this is always quite scary, because it's like I'm flying a dropship and it feels like I'm on my driving test, and he's my instructor. He's basically I'm ready for him to tap the dashboard with his clipboard and pull for an emergency stop. I literally am waiting for that. So I felt very funny that I was almost under observation. So. But I'm liking dropships. They are weak as balls. They are literally, a terrible vehicle at the moment, because they're still pretty expensive, and a redline railgun tank will shoot me down in 2 shots, and that's a shame. But I would say, drop shipping is something we're going to do more of, just because, and again, this comes from other things. So, for example, I'm doing my Eve series at the moment, my return to Eve, my return to New Eden. And I've got to admit, I'm loving the way that the spaceships handle modules, the ability to move, orbit, etc. And to me, the dropship is the closest link you'll get to Eve. It's like a mini frigate in orbit. It's like a little fighter, literally a little fighter. And it just feels so cool to fly these things. I'm terrible at them. I claim not to be in any way able to fly them with any skill whatsoever. But again, it does just, it's always a nice break. I urge people not to run the same fit, the same suit, the same gun, the same tank, the same turret. I urge you to try different things. And if there's one thing I try and teach and recommend from the channel, it's just try something different. Once a week, just get something you've never done before. Put a rail gun on the back of a LAV and see how you do. Go and get a heavy suit and fit it with, I don't know, a flaylock. You never know, it could be quite a good fit. I think this level of theory crafting is what's created quite a lot of interesting fits. And I think certainly I did that with my Scout quite a lot. I did that with my my assault suit as well. And I think also, you know, I'm starting to use a heavy suit with a heavy machine gun again, and that's been incredibly good fun. Difficult, I will admit, very difficult for you guys that run heavy suit in HMG. Got a lot of respect for you because it's not the easiest things to do. I know that sounds stupid because in theory they have a lot of hit points and they do a lot of damage, but you know, unless you're used to it, it's true of anything. Unless you're actually skilled and used to doing it, it's a very difficult thing to pick up anything in a game and be good at it straight away. It does take, you know, skill, expertise, time, you know, experience, etc. So I think certainly the same with the dropship applies. I'm using it more just because I want to become more proficient with it. I see a time when perhaps dropships will be enjoyable and fun and relatively, you know, sort of safe, if you like, from the red line nonsense that's going on now. And I think they'll be quite enjoyable things. I wouldn't say they'll ever be OP because dropships, other than that moment, that glorious summer moment before before the game became public, yeah, they were just terrible. So but they were brilliant then, but from that point on they've always been kind of quite weak flying things, but that doesn't make them bad. That doesn't make them not you know, unusable. I would say that actually the dropship is a very exciting vehicle, as you can see. So really all we're doing here was just dropping our team around just to hack things. Bit frustrating in a way, obviously this endless, you know, kind of, you see these spawn pads here. I mean, clever, I'm not mocking it at all. If you want to win a skirmish or an FW, this is what you got to do. I'm not mocking it in the slightest. I think it's just, you know, the game that you have is a very different one. I think if you want a really good stand-up fight, then you go either ambush or domination. But if you want to have maybe a bit more of a tactical game, a bit more of a game where you can probably set traps, where you can maybe defend slightly better than obviously domination would give you, then I would say certainly give you know, skirmish and FW a go. FW at the moment is an interesting place. I've not run too many for quite a while actually. I think this is just because I hate the time you have to queue up for it. Even if you're running Caldari and Amarr, as we've been doing lately, I'm just gobsmacked at how long it takes to actually get into the match. And usually when you're on a bit of a roll, you don't want to wait 2, 3, 4 minutes because the squad start to bugger off. They start to go and have cups of tea, and all of a sudden you're starting a game with only 3 people, and that's a bit annoying. So, you know, I generally have avoided FW. Post in the comments if it's got better. I certainly don't know myself if it's any better or not. Enjoying the pub matches as well. I think friendly fire is a funny thing. I mean, I had this image when FW came in and friendly fire was on. I had this image that the small minority of people who think I'm a massive dicklord, okay, it's not small, it's huge. Basically everybody who thinks I'm a dicklord, all right, everybody in this game thinks I'm a dicklord would, there we go, that was a hell of a sliding scale. Do you get it? Do you see what I did there? I think a lot of people would just come at me and start shooting me and, you know, sort of blowing at my stuff and that. And I've got to admit, I've been quite pleased to see that people haven't done that. I've had a few, well, actually I've had maybe about half a dozen people, you know, try to kill me. And they'll see me running down the road in a scout suit or something, and then they'll shoot me. But what they don't expect is for me to then just turn around and shoot the hell out of them and put them on the floor. So I've been quite enjoying that. And you seem to get one, in every FW match, you seem to get one kill that you can do before you get, you know, punished in some way. But, you know, I'm really quite liking the FW stuff at the moment, but I just wish I could do more of it. It just takes a little bit more time than I have available to me. With so many different games to play at the moment as well, I'm very keen to keep playing Dust, so I do try and put as much time as I can into Dust. But I think you know, when you start to play things like Eve, and what I'm going to do, somebody posted in the comments a really good point that, you know, if there are Dusties who want to start at Eve, but they've heard obviously it's a real ghetto, what would be a good, you know, I'm going to do a guide for you. This is just my opinion of what would make good sense to do if you want to come play Eve. And I think the first thing to do is obviously come join our group, because that's the safest thing to do. And I think secondly, you know, if you want to do certain things, then we'll show you how to do that. So long story short, we'll do a guide for you. But what's been interesting is just filming, you know, a sort of, you know, 10-minute video for Eve took probably 3 hours, because there's a lot of travel time in Eve, there's a lot of waiting time, there's a lot of You know, warp to this gate, then do this, then pick up that bit, then rescue this woman here, then take her here, then do that. And it's not really terribly interesting. Whereas Dust, and this is one of the things I think most EVE players, if they understood, would flock to Dust. Dust, you can fire up your PS3 and you can be in a game shooting people, orbitaling people, killing people, whatever it may be, within probably seconds. That's very unusual. Certainly, it's something that I've forgotten about quite a lot. You know, certainly from when I was playing EVE, was how much bloody travelling time there is where you're doing nothing. You're warping from one gate to another, and then another, and then another, and it's very boring. And I think certainly Dust really does have the license on just getting you into a game, having some fun, and shooting some dudes. So I think certainly I would probably just say that's certainly a feather in its cap. So there we go. Hope you enjoyed that. Some dropship fun. Didn't really kill much, didn't really do much, but it was interesting to ferry people around. Hope you enjoyed that. See you next time.